Really, one of them should have been intercepted by Jalen Ramsey, right? Think about it. He was just flawless, and wherever he threw the football, he was accurate. He was just pinpoint. I mean, that throw to Christian McCaffrey in the end zone for a touchdown. I thought the ball was going out of bounds. We watched it right there. I said, oh, that ball's going out of bounds. And McCaffrey comes and grabs it out of the air and gets 2 feet down, and it was in bounds by a mile, it felt like. I thought it was going to the back of the end zone. I think there's just a confidence that obviously he has, but it was also right in his wheelhouse about the amount of throws that he had. Jimmy Garoppolo, and to me, these are things that you look at after the game. And after the game, I'm saying, man, the Rams' game plan should have been we need Jimmy Garoppolo to throw more than 25 times.
Mm-hmm.
Because that 25 attempts is like that threshold for 49er fans. The team, the
You
coach.
want to be under that.
You want to be 25 or under if
Right.
you're a Niner fan. You feel confident in what you have. If Jimmy Garoppolo is 25 and under, that means you have some other things working for you. But I think also, too, you got to give a ton of credit to their game plan. Their game plan was to run the football. They did that. Christian McCaffrey had, almost 100 yards.
94.
Rushing. Yeah, almost 100 yards rushing. I think overall as a team they had over 111 yards rushing. But the thing about it is, and I'm glad I had a chance to go stop by their radio booth during halftime, is because they also consider their screen game as a run game. So it's high percentage throws for Garoppolo, but really that's an extension of their running game. It's getting the ball out quickly, making the defense go lateral, making them go horizontal and not vertical, making Aaron Donald have to slow his feet, make him have to redirect. Instead of just going from point A to point B, he's got to move around. So their screen game was effective as well. And it just seems like the Rams great play on first down, and then second down they give up 8 yards, 9 yards. And the 49ers kept getting back on track, which set up those third and minimals.
Yeah, that's the thing, Kirk. It's like a mirror image of each other. The 49ers are really good on first and second down, and they're in a lot of third and very manageable situations, whereas it seems like the Rams are constantly chasing and in second and long and third and long. And, they hit a couple. I thought Allen Robinson made a couple of big third down plays. We'll talk about the penalty that he picked up at one point as well. But when you're third, 7, 8, 9, 10 all game long, it's going to put you in a really tough spot, whereas San Francisco, they're in a lot of thirds and twos and threes and fours, and that's put you in a much better spot.
Yeah, it's just, to me, I'm just looking at a lot of things right now because I'm still kind of surprised. I just didn't expect that outcome, especially at halftime. Had I told you this, Travis, that Allen Robinson would have 5 catches, 54 yards, Cooper Kupp would have a touchdown catch over 79 yards. You had Higbee and Rivers and a lot of guys who contributed. You had you got 2 sacks from Leonard Floyd, another sack from Greg Gaines. The Rams had no turnovers. They actually held the ball longer than the 49ers for 30 minutes. You tell me that that's not a recipe. Matthew Stafford, no turnovers, no interceptions, no fumbles.
Only sacked twice.
Yeah. Had I told you that and not known the score, you said, oh, Rams definitely won this game. They're in this game. And yet they were blown out of this game.
Yeah, that's exactly the thing that is so discouraging for this particular matchup. What's coming up next, we'll certainly spend some time talking about that. If Rams fans want to get in, you know how to do it. It's 877-710-ESPN, 877-710-3776. But to your point, Kirk, the Rams had a first half, at least offensively, looked about as good as we've seen them all year long.
All year long.
They were moving the ball. They were converting on third down. They were holding onto the ball, long sustained drives, and then nothing went right in the second half. But you're right. They didn't say the first time they played, Matthew Stafford sacked 7 times, only sacked 2 times today. The last time they played, he threw a pick 6. No turnovers today for the Rams, and still here you are, and you lose 31-14. To your point, this is the game plan that you would put. Don't turn it over, control some clock, all of these things. Don't get Matthew Stafford hit a bunch of times, and you got a chance. Well, you lost the second half 21-0, and it was a blowout.
I even put more onto what you're saying. I mean, honestly, those sacks were given up at a time in which the game was kind of already imbalanced. The Rams were just obvious passing situations. So the sacks that were given up were because the Rams were already in desperation mode. So if you think when the game was truly imbalanced, they blocked well. They protected well. They just didn't convert in some situations. And, again, this is what rears its ugly head. I don't want to blame the defense because I thought the defense played okay, but it's always just a couple of plays where you just say, can you get a stop, right? The big play to McCaffrey, right? You flush Garoppolo a little bit out of the pocket, and yet he makes an outstanding throw. You flush him out of the pocket again, and he finds George Kittle in the back of the end zone. It's a big run by Christian McCaffrey by not holding the edge or tackling. Yep. It's the little things for the Rams, and these are all correctable. The season is not over by no means. They're just 3-4, right? They're 3-4.
And San Francisco's 4-4. Tiebreaker, obviously, but 4-4 only game ahead right now.
Right. So I think this is a difficult one because it's the team who you played against, who you probably would have been more confident with yourself had you won, but you lost to the team that's been kind of and I know people in Los Angeles don't want to hear this, but again, it's similar to Dodgers and Padres, where the team up north, the 49ers, have been the Dodgers, and they've been whipping up on the Rams, who've been the Padres. And like last year, when it meant the most, the Rams won. But at the same time, you still got to eat this during the regular season.
Well, and what's so discouraging, too, is you go back to Week 18 of last year where the Rams did have a lead in the second half. It did feel like they'd finally solved the puzzle a little bit. They put a lot of pressure on Jimmy G. They made good plays. They didn't turn the ball over a ton. And yet San Francisco kind of wiggled off the hook there at the very end and won the game. But at least it felt like they had made some progress. Then they win in the NFC Championship game, and you're thinking, okay, we had a close call where we let it go. We won the one that mattered most. And then you turn around here in the 2022 season, and in the span of about 4 weeks, the same thing has happened 2 more times. Not only have they lost, they've gotten manhandled, and they really haven't been in these games in the second half.
Yeah, it's I don't know if it's coaching, because I felt like the game plan was there. But there's this lull in the game where there's no way you look up and the Rams are down in this football game. I mean, they controlled the game for the most part all the way throughout, and then all of a sudden it goes into that third quarter, and you look up and say, okay, the Rams still got a lead. And in the fourth quarter, just a switch. It just changed. The 49ers, they came and stole that football game.
All right, 877-710 ESPN is the phone number if you want to weigh in and talk about today's game. A 31-14 loss to the San Francisco 49ers. Again, that phone number is 877-710-3776. Plus, Kirk, I want to come back and talk about the day that Christian McCaffrey had. One through the air, one on the ground, and even threw a touchdown pass as well. That's all coming up next on the Coors Light postgame show on the ESPNLA Rams Radio Network.
$710 ESPN is giving you a chance to win $1 million.
Hey, Rams fans, Travis Rogers here. You have got to get the new ESPNLA app. In fact, let's go down to the locker room and get a little help.
What's up, Rams fans? This is Matthew Stafford. React to the Rams on the new ESPNLA app.
This is Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams. Listen to all your Rams talk on the ESPNLA app.
You are just one tap away from Rams All Access. Travis and Slee, Mason and Ireland, and Sedano and Cap. Download it now on the App Store or Google Play.
710 ESPN is giving you a chance to win $1 million.
Money all the time, what I'm thinking.
$1 Million Mondays.
$1 Million Mondays.
Listen every Monday during football season to Travis and Sliwa, Mason and Ireland, and Sedano and Cap. All you have to do is make a super prediction.
And you can win $1 million.
And you can score tickets to a game at SoFi for just playing on $1 Million Mondays.
$1 Million Mondays.
710 ESPN.
(31-14), the final score from SoFi Stadium. San Francisco wins for the 8th consecutive time during the regular season. They improve their record to 4-4. The Rams drop to 3-4 on the season. Up next, the also 3-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So big game for the Rams coming up a week from today in Tampa. Big one for Tampa as well. We'll get to that coming up in a second. We've got a lot of phone calls that I want to get to. 877-710 ESPN. But let's talk, Kirk, a little bit about Christian McCaffrey. The Rams reportedly were in on him as well. They still have a couple of days before the trade deadline. Ultimately, he goes to San Francisco, right, and all he did in his second game as a member of the 49ers is he threw a 34-yard touchdown pass. He carried the ball 18 times for 94 yards and also ran for a touchdown. Plus, he caught a touchdown pass, 8 catches for 55 yards, including that 14-yarder for a touchdown through the air with his arm on the ground. Christian McCaffrey was everywhere today.
He was outstanding. Let's just be honest. Almost over 150 or close to 150 all-purpose yards. Mm-hmm. You mentioned throwing the football, running the football, receiving the football. He did everything, and it was a noticeable drop-off when he was out of the football game. I feel bad for 49ers running backs. It's like, I mean, I know I'm okay, but, man, that guy, Christian McCaffrey, he's different.
Yeah.
The offense looks different. George Kittle looked different. Brandon Ayuk looked different. McLeod, Snead. All the receivers look different when he's in the football game. I think the defense looks different for the 49ers knowing they have a Christian McCaffrey. They looked more explosive for the first time. I said this game usually is in the teens, in the low 20s. Well, this game blew wide open because of Christian McCaffrey. It was him turning a 4 or 5 yard run into a 30-yard run, right? He was definitely, for a guy who we just saw a couple weeks ago with the Carolina Panthers, he didn't have that kind of firepower with the Panthers. He's got firepower here with the 49ers, and he got an outstanding play caller in Kyle Shanahan who did what Kyle Shanahan does. You know, you ask the question of what do people think of Kyle Shanahan? Mm-hmm. I think he's an unbelievable play caller. He just hasn't won the big one. But, man, you talk about designing plays and getting guys at their best. He does a good job at that.
Kirk, I wonder, and maybe an oversimplification here, but the first half that the Rams put together, I think you could make a pretty compelling case. That was one of their best halves of the season.
I thought it was the best half of the season.
I don't know if they've had a worse half than they had in the second half. And it's so weird to think about that you can have your best half of football the same afternoon. Maybe it wasn't the worst, but it's certainly on the list of nominees where you get shut out and you really never threaten to score. You drop a big ball from Tyler Higbee. Allen Robinson picks up a really bad penalty. And what was a very competitive game just got blown open. Right. Is that a fair assessment?
I think so. I think they had their best half in the first because, like I mentioned, efficiency with their drives. They had 3 meaningful drives. The first one was a 3-and-out. Then you went back-to-back touchdowns, and your final drive, you had to kneel it out, basically run it out the clock because you went in at halftime. It wasn't really enough time for them to go down, and you didn't want to put your team in a bad situation knowing that the 49ers got the ball to start the second half. So, to me, I thought the first half you saw a little bit of everything. They actually ran the ball well in the first half. They got guys involved early on. They did some things to where you felt like, okay, good. All right, they got some tough yards, the 3rd and 1s that were there. So I thought that they were implementing, and I thought that their offensive line was pushing the 49ers defensive front around for a little bit. Second half, totally different story. Totally different story. And I'm trying to figure out where did it all start. I think it just started with the 49ers in their first drive coming out of half. They really, really just started to say, you know what, we can't truly sit back and throw the ball down the field. But what did they do? It was screen out right, screen left, underneath screens. It was just high percentage throws for Jimmy Garoppolo. Was there any point did you see him literally stand back there and have to gun one?
No.
And gun one into tight coverage. No, everything was quick slants. It was quick throws, quick. The Rams didn't make him have to pat it twice.
No, and you look at what they were able to get done, too, with him today. This was a situation where he just had to do exactly what he's done every other time. You talk about getting a guy into a rhythm. You talk about giving him some more options, some things that he's comfortable with. And the entire game, it felt like it turned in a different direction.
Right.
When the Rams had a big hit, the ball comes out in San Francisco, it flies right directly to another 49er player. And then at that point forward, that offense for the 49ers just clicked, and they really didn't miss a beat the rest of the way.
They didn't. They just – that's the way that they win games, though. They do it with tough defense. They're opportunistic. Then their offense – you just want to hope that Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't make a mistake. Close, but he didn't make one. He very similar to quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford, Jimmy Garoppolo. They don't make mistakes. When they don't make mistakes, obviously you see what happens. They are a much better team. And still, I think for the Rams, I just, if there was anything I get from this game, they need to go find a running back. They need to go find some kind of back. Is there Alvin Kamara? There's a Kareem Hunt. There are some guys out there right now that are on the trade market, on the trade block, because no offense to Ronnie Rivers, I didn't see anything special today that got me excited. Darrell Henderson's off, in and out. And outside of that, Malcolm Brown is a short yardage guy, but, I mean, do you really need that? So,
yeah. And especially, too, with the offensive line seeming to be a little bit better today, you get a better evaluation of what those running backs were actually able to get done. Let's try our first phone call of the afternoon, 877-710-ESPN. If you'd like to get involved, let's try Mike. You are up first. Mike, you're on with Travis and Kirk on the Coors Light postgame show. What's going on?
Hi, guys. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, what's up, Mike?
How are you?
Great. Go ahead.
I'm trying to figure out why you guys, what your opinion is about Kyle Shanahan. He seems to have Coach, Sean McVay's number. I mean, I forget, is it like 7 or 8 games in a row, maybe 9 games out of just the one time that won last year? Why do you think he has? Why do you think he has Sean McVay's number?
Why do I think he has? I don't know if he. I would
sure
say,
feels like it.
Yeah,
it sure feels like it. 8 times in a row during the regular season. Sure feels like I know how to beat you. I know what you don't like to do or what you don't do well, and I'm going to do my things first.
Right. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out myself because I wouldn't say he has his number. I just think that every time that he puts a game plan together, his team goes out and out-executes the Rams, right? They make more plays than the Rams are supposed to. And do I say, okay, is that coaching? I think, okay, it's coaching 1, 2, 3, or 4 times. But it's happened way too often to say it's because of the coach. It's because of the coaching. Sometimes you got to put some of it on the players, right? Because it's been multiple quarterbacks. This didn't just start with Matthew Stafford. No. This is also with Jared Goff, happened for 2 years, right? This 8-game losing streak. So we've seen this over and over again with the Rams.
With the game plan, though, Kirk, when you look at the game plan that the 49ers bring to the ballpark, it's pretty similar each time to the next. It's not like they're throwing it 40 times one game and then they're running it 50 the next.
Right.
They're going to throw really quick passes. They're going to run the ball a lot. They're going to throw a trick play at you, and they're going to get after the quarterback. That's what they've done in virtually every single one of these games. It does feel very, very familiar.
It's just the execution, man. That's just they execute well against the Rams. I think they probably know where everybody's going to be at, and they execute more than the Rams do. They didn't have the drop passes that the Rams had. They didn't have the extra penalties, right? Some of their penalties I get. They had some aggressive holding penalties in the end zone, pass interference. You accept those because the guys are playing hard, but they didn't have the silly ticky-tack fouls, right? They didn't have – remember the Taylor Rapp hit?
Yeah.
That was a 15-yard penalty, right? There was just things in which the 49ers didn't do, the Rams did do, and that's – when you look up at the scoreboard, you say, how did they score more points than we did? They went on a 24-0 run.
Yeah, they pulled away from them in the second half. It was not close for really even a second there in the second half. All right, more of your phone calls coming up here in just a little bit. Plus, we're going to hear from the head coach of the Rams, Sean McVay. That's all coming up on the Coors Light postgame show on the ESPNLA Rams Radio Network.
Hollywood Park Casino. Elevate your game.
Once again, here's Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
31-14, the final score from SoFi. The Niners beat the Rams. Up next for the Rams, they will be on the road. That's coming up in Week 9. They'll be in Tampa to take on Tom Brady and the Bucs. Sean McVay has not been able to solve that Kyle Shanahan puzzle. That is something that you're going to have to figure out eventually. Or, Kirk, you say, hey, look, let's just get in there, hope that somebody clips the Niners before we run into them again.
Right.
Because it just has to be so demoralizing at this point. What's it like for those guys in the locker room right now, just knowing that they can't get past the Niners?
Absolutely. I think it's a tough one. It really is. I think it's you look at each other and you say, because I know I had a similar thing like that when my playing career. When I was with the Raiders, I think we lost, I want to say 10 or 12 consecutive to the Chargers at the time when we were in San Diego. And it was just to a point like, golly, like, come on. Like, seriously. Like, what is it coaching? Is it us? Are we in our own heads? And you get off to a good start, and it's always that one play which opens the floodgates, and it just kind of happens. And you're sitting there, and it's to a point again, like I said, like, not this again. So for me, I kind of sympathize with them because I understand it's like you want to beat them so bad, and yet you've done everything you possibly could, and yet you don't come out victorious. You start off with one of the best halves you've had all season long, and you feel confident. You go into the halftime with the lead, right? And yet at the end of the game, you're sitting there with the sour face because it's like, what aren't we doing? And that's the hard part for me, Travis, because I look at the second half and I'm saying, what more could they have done? Obviously, score points. That's number one. Obviously, executing, but they didn't have a ton of penalties.
No.
Right? It wasn't a penalty fest.
No turnovers.
They didn't turn the ball over. They protected the quarterback. So you're saying, man, what more do we need to get done? Are we missing a piece? Like, tonight is a night of reflection for sure if you're Sean McVay and Les Snead. They're saying, like, what are we missing? Today we had one of our better games, and yet we still got beat. We still gave up 30-some points.
I want to ask about that because does the result of today change the way that you approach that trade deadline, which is coming up here in just a handful of hours, right? It's going to come up on Tuesday afternoon. So they have some time to figure something out. Does this change anything? We'll get to that in just a little bit. But the head coach of the Rams, Sean McVay, he spoke with JB and Maurice Jones-Drew after the game.
Joined by the head coach of the Rams, Sean McVay, J.B. Long and Maurice Jones-Drew here. And, Sean, if you wouldn't mind by starting by just sharing with us, what are you and the Rams experiencing following another division loss to the Niners?
Yeah, a little adversity. I mean, it's really how we respond. And it's not even about the opponent. They outplayed us in the second half. We didn't do enough things to win the game. I thought we came out with the right energy, right mentality in the first half. Played well enough, but we didn't sustain it. They played better. They made their plays. We had a couple opportunities to be able to make plays on both sides of the football, and we didn't capitalize, and that's the name of the game, and margin for error ends up getting really small. They controlled possession. They ended up making some big plays, and we've just got to go back to the drawing board. But the easy thing to do right now is to be divided and to hang your head down. But I know this. I trust we got the right guys. I know that myself and our coaches are going to go back to work. We're going to have our eyes up, and we're going to respond.
That they had in the first half, Kirk, were long, sustained drives along the way. These were not them hitting a bunch of big plays along the way. I'm pulling up my notes right here. They had a 17-play, 88-yard drive for their first touchdown. They had a 9-play, 75-yard drive for their second touchdown. This was not them ripping off huge chunks. This was them methodically moving the ball down the field. I had no problem with the decision not to try to push it right there.
No, you're 100% correct. You didn't want to see this team. And Sean McVay has a feel for his offense and saying, the only way that we're going to score is if we do have these long, sustained drives. The 49ers don't give up the big play defensively. Think about what is the biggest play we've seen them give up defensively? I can't think of one. Against the 49ers, think about it. What is the big play? You'll get some, 15, 20-yard gain here or there, but where have you ever seen?
Debo one where he had the long, but that was a 10-yard pass where he ran the ball.
Yeah, I'm saying for the Rams offense.
Oh, yeah, no, it doesn't exist.
Think about. Tell me the most explosive Rams offensive play against the 49ers. I can't think of one.
No, neither can I.
It's about the drives, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
It's about 8, 9-play drives, getting inside the red zone, and then converting that into a touchdown. Outside of that, the Rams don't have that quick strike offense when it comes to going against the 49ers defense.
All right, some more of your phone calls when we come back. The Rams lose 31-14 to the 49ers. Up next, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Your phone calls plus a look ahead to Tampa and a big game all of a sudden for two teams that are in a spot that they did not expect to be in. That's all coming up next on the Coors Light postgame show on the ESPNLA Rams Radio Network. Hey, Rams fans, Travis Rogers here. You have got to get the new ESPNLA app. In fact, let's go down to the locker room and get a little help.
What's up, Rams fans? This is Matthew Stafford. React to the Rams on the new ESPNLA app.
This is Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams. Listen to all your Rams talk on the ESPNLA app.
You are just one tap away from Rams All Access. Travis and Slee, Mason and Ireland, and Sedano and Cap. Download it now on the App Store or Google Play.
$710 ESPN is giving you a chance to win $1 million.
Money all the time, what I'm thinking.
$1 Million Mondays.
$1 Million Mondays.
Listen every Monday during football season to Travis and Sliwa, Mason and Ireland, and Sedano and Cap. All you have to do is make a super prediction.
And you can win $1 million.
And you can score tickets to a game at SoFi for just playing on $1 Million Mondays.
$1 Million Mondays.
710 ESPN.
Park Casino. Elevate your game.
Coors Light postgame show on the ESPNLA Rams Radio Network.
Coors Light, keeping Southern California chill all season long.
Once again, here's Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
31-14, the final score. The Niners beat the Rams for the 8th consecutive time. Up next, the 3-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Rams will roll into that one under 500 as well at 3-4. More of your phone calls here in just a second. But first, let's pause 10 seconds for stations to identify themselves on the ESPNLA Rams Radio Network.
KSPN AM 710 Los Angeles.
KRDC AM 1110 Pasadena, Los Angeles.
Let's go Rams.
You know, Kirk, it was funny listening to Coach McVay talk with JB and Maurice after the game. You and I think are pretty fluent in Sean McVay speak and where he is mentally, and when he's frustrated with his own performance, when he's frustrated with his players' performance. This one felt a little bit different. This one felt like, hey, listen, this is what we are. We're going to have to fight our way out of this. That this all of a sudden isn't just going to become something that turns into a very different football team. I got the right guys here that I'm ready to go fight with, and it's going to be a fight. This was look, this is what we are, and every game is going to be a challenge.
No, I got that got the sense from him saying that, because what did he talk about? He said that we just didn't make the plays down the stretch.
Yeah.
He said they made the plays. We go in at halftime with a lead, and yet second half there was an energy that the 49ers brought. I don't think that the Rams matched the intensity that the 49ers had that
second half.
I mean, they took it, whether it was because of they were their fans who came got into it, or the Rams felt that they had already accomplished something. It just seemed that they had something to prove, and this is a team that's won 7 consecutive in a row. Now make that 8 over the Rams. So there's something to be said about what Sean McVay is talking about with his players, that the sense of urgency that they have to have when it comes to a team like the 49ers. Now, look, moving forward, you won't have to play them again. So that's one thing you can get out of your mind a little bit. But does that have a lingering effect? Because next week you're going to go to roll to Tampa. Tampa, you were up in this game, up in the last time you played them, and yet you end up almost losing that football game because you let them back in. So there's a lot to go into what Sean McVay is saying in terms of this is who they are this season.
Yeah, it's funny, that first half against Tampa back in the divisional round back
crazy.
last January, that was really, when you think about it, that was the last time it felt like the Rams were really cranked up. Yes. Everything after that was very close. Obviously, they ended up winning the Super Bowl, but everything was one score, one way or the other. This season, it felt like every game is kind of hanging in the balance one way or the other, or they're on the wrong side of it. Before we go, take another phone call here. Very quickly, you said something. Towards the end of the first half, it got loud inside that stadium with Rams fans. Rams fans were very engaged as they were getting ready. San Francisco was trying to score the tying touchdown at that point. They ultimately ended up kicking a field goal to make it 14-10 at the half. But it did feel like the Rams fans had a moment, and then the second half, all those 49er fans all over again.
Yeah, because the moment started to become bigger for the 49ers. And you could sense that their fans who came sensed that. And they fed off of that energy. They fed off that energy where the Rams didn't necessarily feed off the energy that they were getting and turning those plays into production, right? I mean, the interception should have been for Jalen Ramsey. The big catch for Higbee. Like, it should have been some plays out there that would have kept them not only on the field, but more importantly, there's no running game.
No.
There's no running game. And if someone asks me, hey, what happened in the second half? Well, the Rams became one-dimensional. They weren't afraid of Ronnie Rivers in the backfield. They weren't afraid of Darrell Henderson or Malcolm Brown. There was no mismatch. There was none of that. And yet, when I saw Christian McCaffrey on the other side, that was the mismatch.
Yeah, there was no Christian McCaffrey in a Rams uniform. That was for sure today. Let's try a phone call here. Let's go to Upland and Tony. Tony, you're on with Travis and Kirk on the Coors Light postgame show. What's going up, Tony?
What's up, guys?
What's up, Tony?
Hey. How you doing?
Good.
Good. What's good?
Well, hanging in there after this, but you led right into it. We're one-dimensional. We don't have a running back. That's even a threat. Not even a threat to anybody. They could care less. Go ahead, run the ball. Yeah, I dare you. But what I want to really get to real quick, because my mind is spinning 100,000 miles an hour because I can't stand losing to these guys. Shanahan's an under 500 coach against the league, but
not against
damn
the
near
Rams,
1,000 coach against us.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, but defensively, you know what? And don't get me wrong, we've done good things defensively, but why they run the same offense every single time, yet we don't adjust. I don't understand why we can't adjust to what they're doing. They're doing the same thing. They're not doing anything different.
Okay, let's go through a couple of these things here. Tony, thank you for the phone call. Let me jump in there right there. I want to go back to the first thing that he was talking about, the lack of running backs. And, obviously Cam Akers has not played the last couple of weeks. I'd be really surprised if they bring him back. Darrell Henderson really hasn't happened for him today. We talked about Ronnie Rivers today. It really wasn't much of a threat along the way. They blocked it up pretty well today. So I think today is the best chance to kind of evaluate what you have. But looking at what you have kind of globally, you're 3-4. You're about halfway through the season, give or take. Obviously, you still got 10 games left, so you're a little bit shy of the halfway mark. But this does not feel like a team that's a player away. This does not feel like a team that just needs one additional guy in one spot.
Right.
Do you think that the way that the game played out today affects their aggressiveness at the trade deadline coming up on Tuesday?
No, I mean they'll take some calls, or they'll make some calls. They'll do a little bit of both. If there's a situation out there that this team feels that can help them, that's really what it's all about. They're looking for a player that can come in and help them, whether it's a guy on the defensive front that can help out in the sack category. Maybe it's another tight end. I mean, it's right now this team is just looking for answers more than Cooper Kupp can give, right? It's Allen Robinson's starting to come along now, but I'm still trying to figure out why Van Jefferson did not have a catch.
No catches.
Today. No catches, not even a target. And it was like he was going to have a big workload. I thought we would have saw some of that earlier, but we just didn't. So it's crazy to think that when you look at it, the box score, you look at and watch the game, it was just an unfortunate incident for the Rams. They keep kind of stubbing themselves in the foot against the 49ers. I can't pinpoint, hey, it was that play or that play. It's multiple plays in which they don't get it done and the 49ers execute.
It's just Groundhog Day
against
this team in particular. The Rams have put together some performances against some other teams that look one way one time, a different way a different time. But against San Francisco, it is just a repeat over and over again. Here's the difference between last year and this year through the first 7 games of the season.
Okay.
Last year, they were 6-1 and were averaging just under 30 points a game. This year, they're 3-4 and averaging just under 17 points a game. Nearly a 2-touchdown difference between where they were a year ago and where they are right now.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's where it is. That's honestly where it is. This is a defense that's playing as well as it can, but yet offensively they're not scoring the points that they once did. And so the Rams have to play this game a lot tighter. So the mistakes are magnified now if they make one. You can miss a tackle, score up a touchdown, but if your offense is going to give you 30-something a game, you're like, all right, we'll be all right.
Now you're getting 14.
Now you give up a touchdown or two, it looks a lot bigger because you don't have the offense that can kind of score that you once did.
All right, more of your phone calls coming up in just a little bit. Plus, I want to talk about next week in Tampa against Tom Brady and the Bucs, who are also off to a tough couple of months in their 2022 NFL season as well. That's all coming up on the Coors Light postgame show on the ESPNLA Rams Radio Network.
$710 ESPN is giving you a chance to win $1 million.
Money all the time, what I'm thinking.
$1 Million Mondays.
$1 Million Mondays.
Listen every Monday during football season to Travis and Sliwa, Mason and Ireland, and Sedano and Cap. All you have to do is make a super prediction.
And you can win $1 million.
And you can score tickets to a game at SoFi for just playing on $1 Million Mondays.
$1 Million Mondays.
710 ESPN.
Hey, Rams fans, Travis Rogers here. You have got to get the new ESPNLA app. In fact, let's go down to the locker room and get a little help.
What's up, Rams fans? This is Matthew Stafford. React to the Rams on the new ESPNLA app.
This is Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams. Listen to all your Rams talk on the ESPNLA app.
You are just one tap away from Rams All Access. Travis and Slee, Mason and Ireland, and Sedano and Cap. Download it now on the App Store or Google Play.
and Kirk Morrison.
31-14, the final score from SoFi. The Niners do it all over again to the Rams. That makes 8 in a row during the regular season. And right now, Kirk, it's time for our player of the game, brought to you by Verizon, the network America relies on. And if it's anybody other than Christian McCaffrey, I'd like to know why. Touchdown pass for McCaffrey, touchdown run for McCaffrey, and a receiving touchdown for McCaffrey. He did it all three ways today.
Yeah, I mean, he controlled the game in that second half. It was things that went through him. Obviously, when the offense was clicking, he was on the field. When he was off the field, it was a little bit different, right? Jeff Wilson only had 4 carries. Remember, Christian McCaffrey arrived literally, 10 days ago?
Yeah.
It's not like he's been there that long. 2 weeks ago on this same field, he was a member of the Carolina Panthers. So a couple days later, he's traded, and then he plays one game with the 49ers where he just had a couple plays. I don't even know how well he knows the playbook.
He looked like he knew it pretty well
He looked like he'd been there for years.
Yeah.
The way that he played. And I still think the scary part is that they played without Deebo Samuel, Kyle Juszczyk, and Eric Armstead, one of their best defensive tackle. Dare I say this team can be even better?
Yeah, it feels like they're pointed in one direction, and it feels like the Rams are in a different spot. So let's go to this right now. Cooper Kupp gets tackled towards the end of the game. The game had been decided. He gets rolled up a little bit. His right ankle was wrapped post-game, according to some reports. He was noticeably limping through the Rams locker room. And I get it. Everybody likes to stay in. Nobody wants to come out of a game. Nobody wants to do any of those things. But there are moments, because, look, if Cooper Kupp goes down, that has been the vast majority of the offense this season. I don't know what this offense would look like without number 10.
It is Cooper Kupp or bust. That's what it's been early on. Now it's starting to look a little different over the last couple weeks with other guys getting more involved, or really the quarterback getting other guys more involved. But it's been all about Cooper Kupp. If he's not a part of this offense, then it all falls on the shoulders of Matthew Stafford. It can really start to look like Matthew Stafford when he was back in Detroit. That's why he took so many hits. That's why he had a bunch of yards as well, but it was all on him. You got to find ways to alleviate some of the stress that could be on him without having Cooper Kupp. So someone else has to make a play, or not make a play, but hopefully this isn't a major issue, because the Rams are still on the lookout for another wide receiver possibly.
So let's talk a little bit about what's coming up a week from today. The Rams go on the road. They go to Tampa to take on the Bucs. The Bucs are 3-5.
Right.
The Bucs have lost 3 games in a row. They have not looked good in any of those games. A couple of those are bad losses to Pittsburgh and to the the Carolina Panthers. Just 2 teams that are not going anywhere this season. The Rams not in much better shape at 3-4. They've been struggling as well. They have not looked like the team that was in Tampa the last time that was getting ready to go win a Super Bowl. It's not over, Kirk, for whoever loses that game, but somebody's coming out of that game either 3-6 or 3-5 and looking up at a bunch of other teams in the NFC. You don't want to put the entire season on a Week 9 matchup in an 18-game season. But this game on Sunday is a huge deal for both of these teams.
It's a big deal. It's probably the game of their seasons for both sides.
Can the loser of that game still find a way to get into the postseason?
Yeah, they can still get into the postseason. I think the Rams would only be their 5th loss. Tampa Bay's already there.
Yeah.
So that would get them to 7?
They'd be 3-6. If they lose next week, they'd be 3-6.
They get them to 6. And now you're saying, can this team go down the stretch and – 3-6. That's 9 games.
You got 8 left. You'd have to go near 7-1.
7-1.
6-2.
Yeah, 6-2. 5-3, maybe. 5-3 gets you at 9-8. Does 9-8?
8-9. Yeah. I mean, and that's look. The NFC. You've got obviously Philadelphia, Dallas, and New York are obviously there. Minnesota is in there, and then San Francisco and Seattle are ahead of you right now. The Rams, if it starts today, they're on the outside looking in, and you fall any further behind, and who knows where you are.
Can you believe that one of these teams may not make the playoffs? Rams, the obviously Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, Packers lose tonight. All of a sudden, they're comfortably under 500 as well.
Because of Minnesota. And Minnesota, they got another win today. Minnesota's only got 1 loss. So you're eyeing everything right now. And it's the parody of the National Football League. I love it.
It sure is. All right, let's try another phone call here. Let's go to Pasadena and Jonathan. Jonathan, you're on with Travis and Kirk on the Coors Light postgame show.
How's it going, guys? At the game, it was an awesome environment, except for all the Niners. Points felt like they were going to come at a premium. what I wanted to talk about was I felt like our superstars weren't there, and I felt like those Jalen Ramsey picks would have been a game changer. McCaffrey outplayed us. Everybody I know is going to be on that Tyler Higbee drop, but I felt like one of those picks from Jalen really would have switched up the energy and kept us going into the second half. But that's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, Jonathan, thanks for the phone call. Kirk, we got about 30 seconds here. We can pick it up on the other side as well. But it was really interesting that the big stars on one side of the field, namely Christian McCaffrey, Jimmy Garoppolo, George Kittle, made some big plays along the way. And for the Rams, they just couldn't get it. Higbee with a big drop, Allen Robinson with a bad penalty at a bad time, and the Rams just couldn't get off the field when they needed to get off the field. All right, coming up next on this station, you can get the pregame for the Lakers and the Nuggets. If you'd like to listen to the remainder of the Rams postgame show, you can find us on 93.1 Jack FM. The Rams lose to the Niners 31-14. More to come on the Coors Light postgame show on the ESPNLA Rams Radio Network. SoFi Stadium, all 49ers who improved to 4-4 on the season. The Rams drop their game. They are 3-4. They'll be looking to get back to 500 again next week in Tampa against the Buccaneers. We are here live at Hollywood Park Casino. Thanks again to our partner Teza, who is out here with us. Kirk, handing out some free samples along the way. I'm looking at mine. Got a little Roger Clemens edition right here, right? That's what I used to look like when I used to pitch, only much, much, much worse along the way. So thanks to Teza for handing out some samples with us here at Hollywood Park today. So let's kind of take a look at where everything is globally in this division. You look at what's going on with this team, and you look at where they are, and you look at what they need to do over the next 10 weeks of this season. San Francisco looks like world beaters against L.A., but very beatable against everybody else. Seattle is at the top of the division right now, but again, they don't feel like they're running away with this. Arizona lost again today. When you look at it, does it still feel like it's a 4-horse race? Is it a 3-horse race? Where are we in the NFC West?
I still think it's a 4-horse race because the Rams and Arizona Cardinals will play against each other in a couple weeks. So, can the Cardinals run off a couple, or could they possibly be the slump buster for the Rams too, right? We talk about the 49ers and what they do to the Rams. Very similar to what the Rams do to the Cardinals. So we can see that in a couple of weeks. But for the most part, Seattle is the surprise in
5
the
and
NFC
3.
West.
They won again today.
They won again today. They're doing it. They're believing in what they're doing. They're young. They got a ton of draft picks. And Geno Smith is playing out of his mind right now. So I have a lot of faith in them, regardless of what people may say. But they're 8 games in. That means they've got 9 games left. Just say that they go,
5 and 4?
5 and 4.
It's 10 wins.
That's 10 wins. They're 10-7. They're in the playoffs. So 5 and 4, that seems realistic for us.
4 and 5 might win the division.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what's so crazy. That puts them at 9 and 8 on the season, and that might be good enough to win this division this year.
I'm looking at the Rams. Rams have 10 games left now. Okay, they're 3 and 4, 7 games in. They've got 10 games left. What's the magic number of wins? Where can this team peel off? Is it 6 and 4 down the stretch? 6 and 4 will put this team at 9 and 8. Is 9 and 8 enough? Think about 6 and 4. And we're looking at their schedule, right? They've got the Packers. They've got the Saints coming up. They're going to have the Seattle Seahawks twice. That could be where they kind of gain some steam and gain some momentum. But they've got the Chargers still on their schedule. They've got the Raiders on their schedule. Denver.
Yeah, and New Orleans is kind of all over the map as well. But that's if they're playing decent football. They really haven't found a way to kind of find that groove along the way up until this point. What did you make of Matthew Stafford's performance today, Kirk? 22 out of 33, 187 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. He was sacked twice. The numbers are okay, 22 out of 33. Not great, but only 187 yards, and I'm going by memory here, but I remember when we were doing the halftime show.
Right.
I think he had like 154 at the half. So you're talking about a 40-yard half for Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I think one thing that I did see is that in the second half, it seemed that the Rams became way more one-dimensional. And when you become that one-dimensional, I think that there were the windows that were open in the first half because they did make a conscious effort of handing it off to Ronnie Rivers, handing it off to Darrell Henderson. In the second half, that was not the case. And so I thought the 49ers just kind of played back in their zones, and they forced Matthew Stafford to have to make some outstanding throws. I think what you also saw was that the 49ers started to feel confident in their 4-man rush. They didn't want to blitz a lot. They kind of wanted to calculate their blitzes, and when they calculated them, that's how Fred Warner came in and got the sack. I get what Coach McVay is saying, is that there's a point where you feel like, okay, we're going to have to max protect. But when you max protect, you only got 1 or 2 routes. That's fine because they did that. They found Cooper Kupp for one. They had opportunity to hit Higbee for a one. It's just it's hard to watch, and I can't wait to watch it over again because I always see when you're watching it live, you forget. Oh, I forgot about that play. Oh, I forgot about that play. But I know there's plays in this game that the Rams wish they could have back. I think also too, got to point a finger a little bit at the defense in their way that they gave up the second down plays.
They couldn't get the stop
when you needed it, and that's the hard part for me. That was unfortunate because there was more plays for the Rams, especially on third down. They kept getting to these minimal third downs instead of the third and longs. There's no way that Aaron Donald's going to take off like that.
All right, here was Matthew Stafford speaking with the media after the game.
Yeah, tough. Didn't have any momentum in the second half. There's no question about that. We got to do a job of keeping our defense off the field there, sustaining a drive. pinning them deep, trying to find some points, something. It's one of those games that you knew was going to be back and forth, and we just didn't come up enough, on offense there in the second half.
And Tyler was very clearly frustrated with himself after the 3rd and 3, the drop. What say to him after a moment like that?
Tell him I should have thrown it at his chin, and we keep it moving. Everybody has their hand in football. It's an imperfect game. I wish I would have thrown that thing right out in front on his chest and let him keep running with it. So, I appreciate the kind of guy that he is and the football character that he has. I hope he feels like I have the same. I wish I could have been better for him.
How important do you think you establish a running game?
I think the more balanced you can be, the better, the tougher it is to defend, I would say. I think we've done it at times, running the ball. We've done it at times throwing the ball. We've got to be able to, do it a little bit more consistently, both those aspects of the game.
When you rush, dive for the pylon, touchdown pass to Cooper, do you have a sense that maybe this is the game you guys are going to put everything together?
I've played this game long enough that you got to do it every single drive. Just because you have a good drive here or there doesn't mean that the game's going to go that way. It's a 4-quarter football game for a reason. We definitely had some good momentum on offense, playing well in the first half. We just weren't able to sustain some of those drives in the second half on 3rd downs that I wish I could have been better on.
You were hit a lot more in the second half and under a lot more pressure. What did they do differently on the line to get to you in that second half?
They brought a few more pressures, but it wasn't anything exotic that we hadn't seen. I think I wish I could have gotten the ball out quicker a few more times, giving our guys some opportunities to catch and run. That's the job of the quarterbacks to move the chains, and I got to do a better job.
Matthew, at this point in the season, how do you describe, as you stand here now, kind of the frustration of losing to this team twice?
They're obviously in our division, which is the worst part, to be honest with you. But other than that, a loss is a loss. I don't care who it is, too. It's frustrating. We put a lot of time and a lot of effort into it.
A loss is a loss, to be sure, but an 8th consecutive loss to the San Francisco 49ers during the regular season. We'll take a look around the rest of the league when we come back. Kirk, that's coming up next on the Coors Light postgame show on the ESPNLA Rams Radio Network.